Hey, I'm Joel.
I'm Tim.
I'm an AI realist, and he's complicated. That's his relationship status with AI. So we're not going to talk about AI, though. We're going to talk about OAuth tokens and session cookies. Woo! Woo! And I'm going to go on stage. We're going to try the new, maybe not new, but for a MacDevOps first, the camera is going to follow me. Ooh. Ooh. Oop. 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 Oh, so I have to keep active. It's like a missile. It follows heat and action. All right. Well, wonderful. Okay. Well, enough stupid presenter jokes before we get into this. So, yeah, see, it's an actual remote. It works as a remote. It's really fantastic. It's a little chip in there, Bluetooth. It's great. So Tim and I have done a lot of work around platform SSO. And one of the things that we continually run into, and for anyone that's interested in getting into platform SSO, it's the interaction between tokens and cookies, tokens and sessions. And so we thought it was really interesting to kind of go through this a little bit. We've got some stupid token tricks, stupid cookie tricks that we're gonna have here, so you can hopefully be entertained by that. But it was important to understand as admins, we are probably often working with tokens, API connections, MCPs. Sometimes we'll use tokens. MCPs sometimes use sessions, so there's cookies involved as well. So we wanted to kind of define these two things a little bit better and give you an understanding of why it's maybe a little bit harder to make PSSO applications than one often thinks, and how all of the pieces kind of fit together. So with that, we now get into the path of the couple of different pieces that we're going to talk about here. So we got some background, some definitions, the attack, and then the defense. So we'll see why PSSO is doing what it does, how some of the advantages of it are, and then as an IDP or anyone that's managing the security of your folks, some things to keep in mind as you go through this, as it's still pretty scary out there, folks. So don't do stupid things. All right. Some background. This is working great. All right. So platform SSO in one breath. You can sign in a couple of different ways. Who's using password SSO? PSSO, sorry. About half the room. Who's using it with passwords? Oh, only like 2 or 3 hands. That's fantastic. Who's using it just with the secure enclave keys? The rest of the folks. Who's using it with smart cards? Fantastic. As expected, for those of you on the live stream, everyone raised their hand when asked about using smart cards. No, 0 people did. All right, so multiple ways of actually doing the authentication. Most folks are going with method number 1, which is the secure enclave key. In the config profile, they're actually password secure enclave, but so it goes. Secure enclave, and when this happens, you're no longer synchronizing your password, which is a great thing. And you're using PSSO to get a set of tokens. All right, they're under the very large umbrella of OAuth tokens, but they're not quite like OAuth tokens that you've seen before. And then the PSSO app is using those OAuth tokens to bootstrap you into a session. And it's when you get into a session in the browser usually that things kind of turn bad. And that's what we're going to go through as we go through here. So platform SSO. And what platform SSO actually produces is a set of bound tokens. And some of the really cool things that you can do here, if you are an MDP, if you're an IDP, and you have platform SSO, it's the easiest way to get an attestation off a Mac. Until the creation and golden gate of managed app, where you can do some attestation flows there with Acme certs, you can actually get an attestation key that marks your serial number and everything else on here. So it really works out. It's a really great way to do that. And frankly, it's one of the easiest ways because unlike iOS, there's not an easy API that you can use. So at the end of the day with platform SSO, you don't actually have a session to sign into other apps. You have a set of platform SSO tokens. It's up to that platform SSO app, and more specifically, the single sign-on extension working in conjunction with the platform SSO application to actually generate that session for you to sign into something in Safari or another web browser that you have out there. So that's one of the things that we're going to kind of talk through here a little bit. All right. So this is the hardware key attestation. Really cool you can get out of it. It's very similar to what you would get during a device enrollment. If you're using the signed, I think there's a P7. This happens to be a PEM, so it's slightly different format. But you end up with the same thing, which is a certificate from Apple, signed by Apple's root certificates, that shows you the serial number on the device and a few other things. The good news with Platform SSO is you can start using this key a little bit more, and you can use it to sign and move other things. So that's where it becomes a little more functional. If you're just doing this on MDM enrollment, for example, you just kind of get the signed attestation and you're done. Here you can actually reattest at times, cycle those keys. So Platform SSO becomes really nice that way. And the beauty of this is, and this is a major distinction between these tokens and what you may get in your browser with a session cookie, is these tokens are hardware locked to this device. All right. During the process with PSSO, shared device keys are created in the secure enclave, and all connections between the PSSO client and the IDP all have signatures going back and forth. And not just signatures, but full-on encryption. So one of the ways that this is a little bit different than your standard OAuth that you have going on in there. So fully encrypted with hardware keys. So really good way of securing that entire pipeline that we have. All right, so PSSO hardens the token, but SS only works if it kind of hands you a session, right? For most users, all they really care about is, can I get into Salesforce? Can I get into Atlassian? Can I get into my apps and my resources in the browser? And that's where PSSO has to hand off and generate effectively a session, and you'll end up, in most cases, not 100%, but in most cases, with a session cookie living in the browser. And that's where things kind of go sideways. That session cookie isn't hardware backed. There's no real OAuth standard for converting a token into a cookie. And so all the vendors have kind of gone in different directions in this way. And that's maybe some of the differences in the PSSO implementations that you see out there. All right, so a quick couple of definitions, and then we're going to hand it over to Tim. All right, so OAuth tokens, there's 3 of them. We don't need to worry about these, but you got access, refresh, and ID tokens that you can have in there. PSSO uses a combination of these as you go through. Standard JWTs, just JSON that have been signed, and in the PSSO case, encrypted in some cases. That's an anatomy of a JWT. I was going to try and get clever and put something in base 64 there because I thought somebody would decode that, but there's nothing clever there, and I apologize. That and you ran the capture the flag last night, so I couldn't even put a secret in there. Sorry. You decode the payload, breaks out to just a couple of different claims there, issued at, expires, all good stuff. There we go. And then you have, probably not many of you have run across a JWE. If you call a JWT a JOT, you'd call a JWE a JWE. I don't know if it's as good off the tongue. But that's a JSON web token encrypted, I believe, is what that works out to be. Your standard JWTs are just signed, but not encrypted. But you can do an encrypted version. You end up with an extra period and a blank space. But this is what actual PSSO uses under the covers, is encrypted JWTs. And again, encrypted by hardware tokens and other things that you can use there. Oh. And now we get to the session cookie. So this is probably what you're most familiar with in Safari, Chrome, your browser of choice. Quiche? Who's using Quiche? Oh, 1 or 2. All right. Oh, fantastic. My son uses it. I haven't. Yeah, you turn off JavaScript. The cool kids are using it. Gotta catch up. And this is where you're actually setting a session cookie. So when you sign into your IDP, you go to Salesforce. Salesforce bounces you to your IDP. You sign into the IDP, username, password, passkey, whatever else you may have. That typically sets a session cookie from the IDP in your browser. Then you get a set of tokens that you use with Salesforce to sign yourself in. With PSSO, you kind of do that backwards, where you start off with using PSSO to issue yourself a set of tokens, and then you got to bootstrap from that token up into a session. And that's where some of the complexity and confusion comes in. All right.
And just to be clear, when you say bootstrap the token, that has nothing to do with
the bootstrap
token. It's
that is correct.
Really, you have to exchange the tokens for
correct.
A session cookie.
So we should find a different word for that going forward. All right. Tokens and cookies are both bearer credentials. So keep that in mind. A token has a nonce on it. It can be used once, which is why we keep these tokens for PSSO are a little bit better than just normal tokens. So those tokens are used once. But otherwise, in a lot of cases, your OAuth tokens are just bearer credentials. You just hand them back, go back and forth until they expire. And we're trying very hard in the security space to not do that. That's why the PSSO piece, bringing in the hardware-backed keys and the nonces, make it a lot nicer. When you get into session cookies, however, all that stuff goes out the window. And we'll talk about that very shortly. Is this where I hand it off to Tim? The attack. All right. And I will go back down so the camera follows me.
Give me a minute to hook up my laptop. Private relay is active. Not sure what has happened. Oh.
There you go.
All right, so a little context before we start the demo. So Joel kind of worked on the cryptography of this, and I kind of put a wrapper around it to make this XPSSO service, which is basically an open source project that allows you to implement the Platform SSO API on the website without having your IDP do it. And one of the things is, so it's a microservice that you can set up. There's a lot of interest in Google because Google doesn't currently support Platform SSO. So this provides basically a service that allows you to proxy that connection. So you basically can log in with Platform SSO on your Mac at the login window to Google. And getting most of the functionality out of it. What you don't get is that single sign-on experience because we hit this blood-brain barrier, which is when we switch between tokens and into a session. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about. Joel talked about this was confusing to me when I first developed it. I thought there was a single sign-on extension and a platform single sign-on extension, which are two separate extensions that would be two separate apps that had two separate extensions within them. And that's not the case. It really is it's an API implementation callback. So people are running SSOEs. So this is what allows you to use that single sign extension in the Finder. It's on both iOS and macOS, and it came about before Platform SSO. And really the idea behind Platform SSO was be able to make those take that first authentication, instead of it being in the browser, have it be at the login window. And so, and once you sign at the login window, you get these tokens, and then these tokens become available to the single sign-on extension, which means if all the world works fine, you sign into your Mac, you open up a browser, and you will not get prompted again. You'll just be able to log in. A couple of caveats on this, and it's important to know this because this is where we get into where the sessions are, is that the tokens that you get, what are these Platform SSO tokens that Joel's talking about, the hardware-backed tokens, are then made available to the single sign extension. And that single sign extension is not magic in the browser. It's not a shared token going to your IDP. It'll it'll intercept it and deliver it to the vendor's code instead. In this case, it'd be our code that gets that. Then we have to authenticate with the identity provider through using magic tokens, using cookies or whatever. And so there's no magic here. It just basically passes these tokens off that you get and makes them available. The big thing is, when I said browser, it's only WebKit browsers that catch it, right? So it's Safari and NSCurl, and my laptop went to sleep. So you have to have that. There is a Chrome extension, but it leverages WebKit. Already gotten these tokens. And that's right here. See? So there's this shared manager. It's AS Authentication Provider Extension Login Manager Shared Instance SSO Tokens. So that means you now have the single sign-on tokens. You're like, I am king of the world. I have these SSO tokens, and now I need to go and access Salesforce, right? I need to log into my IDP. So I go and I'm like, okay, I got these OAuth tokens, and I want to present them. But how do you sign into an identity provider? The identity provider is what gives you tokens. What you give it is a passkey authentication. You give it your username and password. This is what Joel talks about. It was the opposite kind of piece. So normally when you log in, you would authenticate, and then you would get session cookies. So one of the things we did is along with getting the SSO tokens, we actually captured the session cookies, and then we would reconstitute those session cookies in the browser. And that way we can get that session, and then we can head off to Salesforce or Zendesk or whatever. So here, let's get to the attack. So now you can say you went from these hardware-backed keys that if somebody sneaks on your machine and you grab those hardware-backed keys, which you couldn't do anyways because it's in the secure enclave, or you get the keys, but you can't get the private key that's in the secure enclave, it won't do you any good. But the problem is that once you log into your identity provider, you now get cookies. And that's what Joel showed there. And once you get the cookies, you basically have the keys to the kingdom. And so let me show the extraction of that. So I wrote a very small app called Exfiltrate. It uses Swift UI, so it takes a long time to compile. It's not compiling? Is it running?
It's already running.
It's already running?
I don't know. Where's your app?
I don't know. There it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
You need a new machine.
I need a new machine. Okay, so this is, okay, let me show you. This is the entire app. This is pretty much it. It is, including the preview, it's 96 lines of code. Most of it's boilerplate code. And all it is a WK WebView browser. And I don't actually have, I'm not going to show you my Apple Business one because then I get in trouble, but we have a demo school.apple.com account. Oh, yeah, I'll clear my cookies first. Make sure that's gone. And then grab the username and password. Sorry about that, Joel. Sam, can you please log into that? It does have two-factor. I hope. There we go.
You just fill it in.
It's got to fill in. Okay, thank you. Autofill. All right, so this is normally what you would be logged in through the platform SSO, and you'd be able to have this, so I'm logged in. But the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go, and this could be a popover web view in an app or whatever. It gets me to log into School Manager, some wonderful integration. And I'll go to Gmail, and I'll sign in. I'll sign in with a completely separate user. Has nothing to do with this. And since Weldon broke the internet before, I'll have to wait a little bit. I did not put a static authenticator because I think only people that are weak need that. Okay, so now if I rerun this app, it wasn't because of me, it was because of Apple. Everyone saw that message. It was a problem. Oh, another thing about this is really fun is that we started off doing a demo with Apple Business Manager, and it was working fine, but I didn't want to show my Apple Business Manager, so we went to Apple School Manager, and because it uses UIKit or Swift UI for iOS, you're not allowed to use Apple School Manager on a mobile device. So all we did is put the user agent, and then it's like, oh, it's fine now. All right, so let me do this again. Let me just make sure I'm still logged in. And this time I'll... We might need a hotspot. Okay, now I want to everyone to turn off their hotspots. If you want me to continue this demo, you're going to need to turn off your hotspots. Sorry, Martin. Are you doing the hotspot for me?
I can. Let's see if mine connects. Should be good. We've got. Oh. Did all the kids come back to school right now?
I've have it turned on to accept everything. I'm a giving person.
No, you're a getting person.
Okay, I'll run this again.
Watch it build faster.
Yeah, it does have to be. Okay, it did.
Try turning it off and on again.
Okay. I do enjoy the capitalization of the URLs for me. Yeah. Correct channels. I love it. Okay, Wi-Fi's off. Network. Oh, geez. I don't have it. It was working yesterday. I plugged it into this gray one. Is that correct? Oh, Joel's taken over.
Let's,
Joel is now operating the computer.
On that maybe you'll find other networks.
So, Wes, do you have a good joke you could tell that's on your last one?
Yeah, one sec. My wife told me our house is haunted. Nonsense. I've lived here for 300 years and haven't seen anything.
All right. Mr. AFP 548 solved the issue. Bravo. Okay, so we got Apple School Manager. Let me log in again. Sam Keeley, there's the password. And yes, it is only Sam Keeley that logs into this and tries to do bad things. What's that?
Oh, over on the left.
Oh, you're reading all my notes? Rabies. Yeah, okay. That's great.
Everybody take a picture.
It's blank. It's blank.
What about rabies 2026?
Genital warts. Okay, so now this is separate, and so I'll put in, I have a good friend named Barney at our labs division of TwoCanoes.com. Okay. So you can see how secure I am. I'm using two-factor authentication. There's absolutely no way anybody could ever infiltrate my system. All right, and here's all my email. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all my cookies to the pasteboard. And normally, somebody that's infiltrating wouldn't put a button in the UI to copy your cookies. It would do it in the background. But this hacker's not all that clever. And so this hacker is going to put it into a text document. Okay, here's the cookies. Secret 99. And then I'm going to text it to my cohort. Okay, and then I'm going to go about my business and using my Gmail and Apple Business Manager. Oh, great. People are texting me with that. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric. It's good to see you. And then I'll go sit over here and wait to be exfiltrated.
Oh, if you can't be educational, at least be entertaining. All right. soon as we get back up to mine, so if you'll know, Tim had an app called Exfiltrate. I've got an app called Exfil9. But otherwise, the same thing. So we've got some cookies in here. I'll clear them all out. Reset the cookie jar. While Tim was asleep, I updated his code a little bit and added some things. So now I can get the cookies that he sent to me and pop in over here and paste, and then I'm done. And now if I go straight to school.apple.com, what are we going to find? You kind of know the answer, right? Rabies, maybe rabies.
General word.
Hey, there we go. We're signed in that we have on there. And then also we've got, if I go to Gmail, we've also got the same thing here, which is you're going to see Barney's email that's in there. And hopefully this isn't a shock to anyone that cookie theft like this has been kind of a pretty big deal for a long time. We like to kind of show this a little bit to really drive home that no matter how good your supply chain is of those tokens and that authentication and that identity, you still get to a point where you have some problems here. Now, granted, we had to go through some things, right? Tim had to be a willing participant in this. Otherwise, it would have had to gone into his browser, steal them out. But that's not entirely impossible. And if you'll notice, there was a certain IDP a few months, maybe a year or two ago, that got hacked because they kept getting customer HAR files. And in the HAR files are all the cookies going back and forth. And so an attacker got into the support system, grabbed those HAR files, and a lot of these cookies, some of them live for 90 days. The good news is about the Apple Business or the Apple School here and the Gmail, if I use this for a little bit longer, eventually these cookies will stop working because it'll have noticed I've come from a different IP address or some other things. There's a couple of ways of doing that. But we did want to drive home, and again, it's not anything really to do with these applications that we're showing here, but just that this is a problem. You know, we do have some needs that we've got here, and as an admin, you should be aware of that. This is one of the things that PSSO does a really great job with, but it can only take it so far. You still have to have something in the browser, and usually that ends up with a session cookie. And those are where you get a lot of your more insecurities that you have in here. So what are some, defenses that you can use to this? A lot of the, major IDPs have hardware-bound sessions. If you're using a PRT from Microsoft, Windows Hello for Business, they do put in a lot more controls about redoing sessions and going back to hardware. At JumpCloud, we have JumpCloud Go, does very similar thing. Okta FastPass is also another implementation of this. So you can make sure that your sessions are a lot more rooted in hardware-backed tokens. With JumpCloud Go, for example, my name's on the patent, so maybe I know something about it. We actually, I could give you my session cookies and they'd be useless to you. We just do that to keep the browser a little bit happy, but otherwise we're using our Chrome extension to do a lot of the authentication under the covers, specifically because we don't want those session cookies to be sprout legs and walk around, is what you can see. There's also very recently, Google and Okta have made some announcements about this with device-bound session tokens. No, session cookies, DBSC. Ignore the T. It's actually a C, I had tokens on my mind when I wrote this. And so it's device-bound session cookies. And what those do is usually a session cookie might be good in the Microsoft case up to 90 days. But it now refreshes every 2 to 10 minutes with a hardware-backed credential. And it's hard to see this, but you can turn on the developer tools in Chrome. It doesn't work out of the box on the Mac, so you actually have to go into Chrome flags and turn on a whole bunch of device-bound session credentials, Chrome flags. But then if you do all of that, and you have an IDP or a resource that supports DBSC and you're in Chrome, then you'll actually see your session cookies get refreshed quite often. And so here's an example of that. It's in DevTools application, device-bound sessions, and then you can see how that's getting refreshed. In this case, I think I was bored, so I set it to every 2 minutes or something like that. So it'll quickly refresh those session cookies. Still wouldn't have prevented what Tim and I just did, but it would keep it to the blast radius of maybe 2 minutes before the credential then gets expired and has to get moved on. All right, so with all that, we got to land this show. so you can all go to lunch. I think we're over time, but this is the last slide, I believe. So PSSO hardens the token. It's really great. They got some good things in there. Really looking forward to some of the new things on PSSO that are coming out in Golden Gate. Excited for Beta 3. Excited for Beta 3 to start working with the PSSO pieces. Cookies and tokens do have some bare credential aspects to them, so you got to be very careful with them. A lot of work has gone specifically into tokens around how you can track them back to hardware and have attestation and things like that. None of that really exists for cookies, so cookies are still kind of the weakest link in all of this, and that's also how some of the interplay between PSSO tokens and session cookies happen. So take a look at some of the, depending on your identity provider, make sure you're using as much security as you can. Lock your sessions down, make them shorter, especially with tools like Microsoft, PRT, Okta FastPass, JumpCloud Go. The friction for a user to re-authenticate really drives down quite a bit. So keep your sessions short if possible. You'd rather have your users refresh, because with these tools, it's almost instantaneous, and that way you can keep your sessions down and the session lifetime down. And with that, final notes?
Bravo.
Thank you. Any questions?